Hey, what's up you guys, it's Caboose bringing you another video, and today what I got for you guys here is going to be reports, heavy rumors that a multiplayer Marvel game may be in development right now by Insomniac Games themselves, exclusively for the PlayStation. Now before we jump into everything, I wanted to ask you guys, of course, if at any point you enjoy the video, if you could consider leaving a like rating on it, it would show your support, and I would really appreciate it. So if you enjoy the video at any point, leaving a like rating would be awesome. And also, if you're new here and you want to keep up to date on all things Marvel games, well then I got you covered. I'm making videos on news and updates for games like Marvel's Spider-Man 2, of course as well Marvel's Wolverine on the PlayStation 5, Marvel's Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, all sorts of fun stuff like that. And whenever we get an announcement of this potential multiplayer Marvel game, I'll be all over it. If that sounds good to you, then hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell to be immediately notified when a video goes live. And with all that being said, let's jump into this. So this information comes from the Xbox Era podcast, and I understand how that sounds, a PlayStation exclusive Marvel multiplayer game being rumored and reported on an Xbox podcast doesn't really add up on paper, but one of the co-hosts, Special Nick, is an insider, does have some credibility, and a ton of people online are talking about his reports here. And Nick mentions on the podcast through one of his sources that a Marvel multiplayer game is currently in development and will be exclusive to the PlayStation 5. Following that, he goes into speculation, and this doesn't come from his source, it's really just his best guess, in that Insomniac Games is potentially developing this multiplayer game for Marvel. And if we look at some of the information and the breadcrumbs that we've had leading up to now, that actually adds up. Not too long ago, Insomniac Games posted on their social media some job listings to be hired for a multiplayer game that they were working on. You know, they tweeted, Insomniac is hiring. We have 5 new job openings for a multiplayer project. Come join us and be a part of the hashtag PlayStation Studios family as we work on exciting things. And they were specifically looking for a creative director, a systems designer for multiplayer, a story lead, art director, and VFX artist. Originally, people were speculating that maybe this was a listing for Marvel Spider-Man 2, but we have since learned that that's not the case, as Spider-Man 2 is going to be a completely single-player game, not to mention the fact that it already has a team assigned to it, and the same goes for Wolverine on the PlayStation 5. And considering the job listings that they've posted there, you know, a creative director, VFX artist, story leads, all that stuff, it seems like this is a game that is very early in development, even earlier in development than Wolverine. And just as I've said, this all really does make sense. The puzzle pieces are falling into place. If Marvel is working on a PlayStation 5 exclusive multiplayer game, and Insomniac is developing a multiplayer game that they're currently hiring for, after already having 2 massive Marvel properties in development at their studios, why wouldn't it be Insomniac Games that's working on this multiplayer thing for Marvel? The folks at Insomniac have confirmed that they were pitching Wolverine to Marvel before that game got greenlit. That was the thing that they wanted to work on the most besides Spider-Man. I'd have to imagine that there are other projects they also really want to work on, as they're very passionate for the Marvel brand. So now the question becomes, what could this multiplayer game be? Well, I have 2 initial ideas as to what that might be. Number one, based on, of course, the fact that they're working on a Wolverine game, is that this multiplayer game could be an X-Men game. Wolverine is a key player in the team, and it would make sense if they're very passionate about the character of Wolverine, that they're also very passionate about the team, the X-Men. And while in my personal opinion, you can't really do an X-Men game without having some sort of co-op functionality or just an online component to it. If you're gonna have access to a bunch of different members of the team, then you want to be able to have the opportunity to play with your friends. Of course, I would like for there to be a fun single-player experience, but if you get to play as the X-Men, how fun would it be to be playing as the X-Men with your buddies online? The only reason why I think it might not be an X-Men game is because if that were to happen, I'd assume that it would end up being the same team involved working on Wolverine PS5 carried over to that. So it might not be an X-Men game, considering that Insomniac is hiring for a completely new team to work on this multiplayer game. And that brings me to my next guess, and I actually think this is fairly likely, and that is Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. When I look at Insomniac and what they're trying to do with Marvel and their partnership as well with PlayStation, is that they want to pluck the most popular, most beloved Marvel franchises and characters. They did so with Spider-Man and knocked it out of the park. They're now working on Wolverine and are presumably going to knock it out of the park as well. Why not pull from the first family, the most iconic family in Marvel Comics, the Fantastic Four? There's so much source material to pull from, a ton of different stories that they can tell, and I I would assume that there would be a lot of passion injected into this project. And again, all the same with what I was mentioning about a potential X-Men game. If you're playing a Fantastic Four game, it would be a lot of fun to be able to jump online and play co-op with your friends. Of course, I would like there to be a single player experience to it, similar to maybe Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, where you can swap between all 4 different members of the team. But if you jump online, someone can play as the Thing, someone can play as Human Torch, Mr. Fantastic, or of course the Invisible Woman. This would also be a great opportunity for Insomniac to expand their Marvel Games universe. I mean, assuming that Spider-Man and Wolverine are connected, it would be really cool to have Fantastic Four added to that list. Couple that, of course, with the new Foundation and the amazing Bagman suits being added into Spider-Man PS4, with the Bagman suit having the Fantastic Four logo and everything. How awesome would it be if a Fantastic Four game was made by Insomniac to see Spider-Man show up in the game? You're just gonna have to watch this space. It's really exciting if this news ends up being true. If Marvel is working on a multiplayer game exclusive for the PlayStation 5, and it is indeed Insomniac being the ones to develop it, we're probably not going to hear about it for a long while now. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is in 2023, and Wolverine is going to be at some point after that, maybe in 2024, so don't expect to hear about this game for a little while, at least a couple of years. And if this is true, and Insomniac is working on this multiplayer Marvel game, oh my goodness, they are literally living up to their studio name. Do they sleep? Are they literal Insomniacs? They released Spider-Man Miles Morales and Ratchet and Clank within like an 8-month time span, and then they announced Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine a few months after Ratchet and Clank's release. My goodness, they have so many games they're working on, and I'm really excited to see what they got planned for the future. We'll just have to wait and see. And with all that being said, I now want to kick it to you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If this rumor ends up being true, what multiplayer Marvel game would you love to see be made? And do you think that it'll be developed by Insomniac Games? Sound off in the comments below. And of course, if you enjoyed today's video, if you could consider leaving a like rating on it, it would show your support, and I would really appreciate it. I'm Caboose, and you can click on screen to make your way to one of the other videos on the channel, or you can click my logo to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Those links are going to be in the description. Drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a comment if you have an opinion, and subscribe if you're new. See you guys later.